In this quick review, we're going to start talking about credit cards and then how to find the average daily balance for a credit card and how they charge interest on any outstanding balance you might have. All right, so first off, I want to talk about what are called open-end installment loans. So most credit cards customers are billed every month. A typical billing period is like something from May 1st through May 31st. So the start of the month to the end of the month. But it can also run, say, from like May 5th to June 4th. It just depends, right? So customers receive a statement called an itemized billing. We'll look at one when we do an example. That includes the unpaid balance on the first day of the billing period, the total balance owed on the last day of the billing period, and a list of purchases and cash advances made during the billing period, any finance charges or other fees incurred, and the date of the last day of the billing period, the payment due date, and the minimum payment required. So a lot of informations. All right. So customers who make a purchase during the billing period and pay off the entire amount of the purchase by the payment date are not charged interest. But we'll look at a case where what happens if you had a previous balance, and then what happens if you don't pay off all your bills? How are they going to charge you interest? All right. So interest on credit cards use what's called the average daily balance method. All right. So the interest is calculated using this formula. So it's interest is just equal to principal times the rate times time. So this is just the um, simple interest formula. So we've talked about that in another quick review. And so the rate here is the monthly rate, and T here is just 1 month. So, and this is going to be a unique situation where T, when we go to calculate the interest here, T is just going to be one. I know when you're in previous examples, when we've done 1 month, we've written this as 1/12, but in this specific example, T will just be one. All right. The principal that which you're charged interest on, P, is what's called the average daily balance. And it's a little bit tricky to find the average daily balance. All right, so the average daily balance is the sum of the unpaid balances for each day in the billing period divided by the number of days in the billing period. All right, so, yeah, so you can just see here's the formula: sum of the unpaid balances for each day in the billing period divided by the number of days in the billing period. To figure this out, it is a little tricky, but we're going to set up a nice, neat table to do this. All right. So here's the example we'll work through, and then I'm also going to show you the steps. Okay, so here's the example. So the issuer of a particular Visa card calculates interest using the average daily balance method. Great. All right. The monthly interest rate is 1.3%. So this is what we're given. Our interest rate is 0.013 as a decimal. Okay. And it's 1.3% of the average daily balance. So the following transactions occur during the January 1 through January 31st billing period. So what's important to note here is January has 31 days. Okay, so when we go to do the average daily balance, the number of days in the billing period here is 31. Okay, so I already have the denominator at the bottom of this fraction here. Okay. All right, so here's the example we're going to use. So what you see here is I have the dates that transactions were made. I have the transaction descriptions and then the transaction amounts. First thing to note is there's a previous balance of $500. All right, so this credit card had $500 already on it on January 1st. That's important to note. And then look, this is kind of an example maybe where somebody went to Florida for Disney World, okay? So January 1st, the billing period begins. On January 5th, they bought some airline tickets for $375. On January 10th, they made a payment of $175. On the 16th, there was a restaurant charge of $100. On the 20th, there was a hotel charge of $600. 21st, they bought some Disney tickets, a lot of fun, for $400. On the 25th, they had to purchase some souvenirs, $150. And then the 31st is the end of the billing period. Okay. So here are the three things we're going to do in this example. One, we're going to find the average daily balance, okay, for the period. We're going to round to the nearest cent. Then we're going to find the interest to be paid on February 1st, the next billing date, and we're going to round to the nearest cent. And then we're going to find the balance on the credit card due on February 1st. So basically what this is saying is what's the new balance on the credit card? Okay. B and C are pretty straightforward. A is the tricky part, finding the average daily balance. All right, so this is the hard one. Okay, 5 steps here. Step one. First thing you're going to do is you're going to make a table that shows the beginning date of the billing period, each transaction date, and the unpaid balance for each date. All right. So here's how we're going to set up the table. And please forgive my sloppy writing here. Okay. Beginning date, transaction date, unpaid balance for each date. Okay. So date, and the unpaid balance. All right, so January 1st, first thing is, what was the unpaid balance? $500. Okay, so it started with $500. Let's go look at the next transaction. On January 5th, this person purchased some airline tickets. So on 01/05, they purchased airline tickets for $375. So we add that to the previous balance. So now they have an unpaid balance of $875. Let's go back. On January 10th, they made a payment. They put $175. So if they made a payment, you would subtract that. So now their unpaid balance is only $700. Let's look at the next one. January 16th, there was a restaurant for $100. So you take their unpaid balance of $700 and you add $100, and now their new unpaid balance is $800. 20th, a hotel of $600. So you take the $800, you add this new charge of $600. So now they have $1,400. All right, Disney tickets on the 21st. That's great. And those costed $400. Pretty expensive. So I take $1,400, add the Disney tickets, and now their unpaid balance is up to $1,800. And then their last charge here was some souvenirs for $150 on the 25th. So I would take $1,800 and add $150. And now their new unpaid balance is $1,950. And then I'm just going to add here the end date, okay? Just so I know it ends on the 31st, okay? So this is what I have. I've done all of step one, unpaid balance for each date. Perfect. So I've done step one. Step two, let's add a column to the table that shows the number of days at each unpaid balance. Okay, so look, how many days do they have an unpaid balance of $500? Well, that would be the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. So that would be 4 days. Then on the 5th, the new balance was $875. Well, how many days is that? Well, they had that balance on the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and then the 9th. So that's 5 days. Then on the 10th, they have a new balance of $700. So the days that they carry that balance are the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, and then the 15th. So 6 days. Then on the 16th, they have a balance of $800, and they carry that for the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th, which is 4 days. Then on the 20th, they bought that. I think on the 20th, what was the charge? the hotel. They carry that just on the 20th, so just for one day. Then on the 21st, they have a new balance of $1,800. They carry that balance on the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th for 4 days. And now here's where this is a common mistake I see here. What you're noticing that I'm getting these days right here, it's like the 5th minus the 1st is 4 days. The 10th minus the 5th is 5 days. That's kind of not really exactly what's going on. So like, listen to this, okay? On the 25th, they have a new balance of this, 1,950. So they carry that balance the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. So they carry it for 7 days because they carry it on the last day, okay? So you got it. One way to check here is there's how many days in January? 31, right? So let's add them up. 4 and 5 is 9, 15, 19, 20, 24. Yes, this sums up to 31 days. So that's one way to check to make sure you have it correct, okay? Next, step 3. Add a final column to the table that shows each unpaid balance multiplied by the number of days that balance is outstanding. So last column here, we're going to take these two columns here, multiply. So unpaid balance, and we're going to multiply by number of days. So for example, I'm going to take 500 and multiply it by 4. That gets me 2,000. I'm going to take 875, multiply that by 5. I'm going to need my calculator for this one. And it gets me 4,375. Then I'm going to take 700 and multiply it by 6. Should be 4,200, but let's just multiply so you can see. 800 times 4 times 4 days gets me 3,200. 1,400 times only one day is just 1,400. I'm going to take 1,800 times 4. $7,200. And then finally, I'm going to take that 1,950 and multiply. This person carried that balance for 7 days. So that is 13,650. Whew, a lot of work there. All right. Next, step 4, let's find the sum of the products of the final column of the table. This dollar amount is the sum of the unpaid balances for each day in the billing period. So what that is that is the top of this fraction right here. Okay, that sum of the unpaid balances. So the last step I'm going to do here is I'm going to sum all these numbers. So I'm going to take 2,000 plus 4,375 plus 4,200 plus 3,200 plus 1,400 plus 7,200 plus 13,650. And I'm going to get $36,025. Okay. Now we can compute that average daily balance. It's the sum of the unpaid balances for each day in the billing period divided by the number of days in the billing period. All right, let's do it. average daily balance. So basically what you're doing is you're taking this sum here, $36,025, and you're dividing it by the number of days in the billing period, which is 31. So I'm just going to take that, and you're going to get this number right here, and I'm going to round to the nearest cent. So it's $1,162.10. Basically, what we're saying here is, look, some days your balance was $500, some days your balance was $1,950, but the average balance, the average unpaid balance you carried over those 31 days, so on average, how much did you have unpaid? Was this much. So next, let's find the interest they're going to be charged. Well, the interest that they're charged is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. Well, the principal here that they're going to choose is that average daily balance. The rate was 1.3%, and it's going to get charged times 1 month. So we take 1162.10 times 0.013 times 1 month. You don't even need that one, but put it in there. And I'm going to round this to the nearest cent. So they're going to get charged $15.11 in interest. All right, C. The last question asks, find the balance that is going to be on the credit card on February 1st. A common mistake I see is you take the average daily balance and add this number, but that's not correct. What you have to do is you say, okay, what was their last unpaid balance? Okay. They still have, if you look on the 25th, they have an unpaid balance of $1,950. That's what's due on their credit card. And then you add to it the interest charge and how much they're actually going to have on their credit card that they have to pay back on February 1st is $1,965.11. Okay, I hope this quick review helped. And because there was a lot going on here with this, I will save this file for you and put it with the video. And as always, if you have any questions, please ask your instructor.